watching the award-winning GHS TV, Germantown Community Television, your hometown news and information station.
Welcome back. I'm Vincent Perryman, and you're watching Legalese. Joining us on today's show is Neal Hanna with Saddle Creek Title. We are discussing real estate law. Before the break, we were talking about investment properties. If someone had, some extra money laying around and they wanted to invest in those investment properties, what would you suggest?
Well, there's tons of opportunities out there to, get in, signed up for different websites that offer foreclosure properties. There's the realtors that they could get in touch with. They could contact us, and we could put them in touch with someone that could, help them go find a property. They're going to want to make sure that they, have some sort of idea as to a good market to get a fairly decent performing rent return. It's probably a good idea to sit down and talk about whether or not they want to form an LLC to hold these properties so that they can sort of protect their individual assets in the event that that there's some sort of liability relating to one of their rental properties. So they definitely would want to get in touch with a real estate lawyer or general corporate lawyer to help them just think about those issues and think through those issues.
Okay, and then as far as with the, when you're talking about the corporation and the liability that are there with these rentals, what are some of the liabilities in regards to your residential investment properties and your commercial investment properties?
Well, I mean, the classic example would just be the slip and fall type situation. You got some tenants in your house and the roof falls in, and they've alleged that you as the owner and the landlord had not properly maintained the house, and so therefore you're liable. The same kind of issues would come up in commercial property. So if you've got an LLC that's holding these entities, it would insulate you personally somewhat from liability for these particular issues.
Well, and when you're talking about the insulation there from the personal assets, if you could sort of expound on how that works, where what is at risk as far as if the LLC is sued in one of these situations on investment properties?
Yeah. Well, if an LLC is sued, then all of the LLC's assets are at risk, and that would mean if you had multiple properties that were being held by the LLC, which is the way a lot of folks do it, then a person could, if they were successful in a lawsuit against the LLC, they could attach these other rental properties that you have. Some folks will consider having a separate LLC entity for each individual property. It's not a bad idea to do that. I mean, it definitely adds some cost to what you're doing, so it just kind of depends on the margins that you're working with. And what it protects is just your residence, your home, your personal bank account, and your personal assets. Whereas if you own all these properties individually, and something like that happens, and somebody sues you, they get a judgment, they could come and attach any assets you've got, whether that's your house, your checking account, stocks, whatever.
Okay. Well, and with the anytime you've got a renter or a leasehold like that, I guess you would need some contracts, and what all needs to be in place once you've found the property?
Well, you definitely want to have a really good lease in place, and you'd want to talk to a real estate lawyer about that. You want to have some, forethought into the lease in terms of what you want to do to get those folks out if they don't pay. Some provision in there to cover attorney's fees in the event you have to, go forward with an eviction proceeding. It's also a real good idea to have a checklist of the property condition that you go through with your tenant, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page with respect to the condition that the property's in when the tenant takes possession, so that they know exactly what it needs to look like when they give it back.
Well, and I guess one question that always comes up with that, if you've got extra income, you're probably out there working yourself, and you've got your 40 hours a week that you've got to work. So, you know, there's some companies I know that are property management companies,
Right.
and if you enter into a contract with them for that, what are some of what you should be looking at?
Well, in property management, you know, is become it's increasing a lot just because, you know, as I said, the investment property market is kind of thriving, and part of that is due to the sort of bottleneck on the availability of credit to buyers. Buyers that could qualify for loans a year or 2 years ago can't get qualified now. They still need a place to live, so the market for rental properties is really growing. But you know, most folks that want to invest in something like that either lack the time or the desire to manage it themselves and take phone calls over the weekends about you know, leaking toilets or something like that. So it's a good idea to at least consider using a management company. That's something that we offer as well. And you know, the management company, the things that I would suggest if you're looking at management companies is that you've got a real clear understanding of what your fees are going to be. You know, make sure that the management company can give you a point-for-point breakdown of exactly what you're going to pay, so that at the end of the month, and when you get your rent proceeds, you're not surprised by some hidden fee or charge that you didn't know you were going to have. But essentially, most management companies will provide a full-service property management, so they will handle everything from advertising and marketing your property, putting a tenant in there, executing the lease, collecting the rent, evicting the tenant if they need to be evicted, taking any kind of repair request or maintenance request or complaints about noisy neighbors, et cetera, et cetera. It just takes all the work out of the hands of the investor and puts it in the hands of a management company who basically does that full time.
Okay. When we return from our break, we'll talk more with Neal Hanna about real estate law. Please stay with us.